All right, everybody, welcome back to RCT Construction or RCT Deconstruction in the case of this episode. I do apologize if I sound a little bit off. I am feeling a little bit under the weather this week, but we're going to power through it and get this video done to continue with the Fun Corporation series. So if you saw a little while back, I posted a teaser that said Ring of Fire would see its last day of operation be in September of 2002. Which would be, yeah, it's correct. We are in the early 2003 season right here. Sorry, I've taken a vacation. I'm just kind of getting back in the swing of things in relation to the series. But nonetheless, we're going to make our way back down towards Ring of Fire right here. And what we're going to do to get started is start walling off our coaster here. So we'll get our construction walls in place now. The nice thing about a park like Joyland is I would have the opportunity to clear it out before doing this, but I do not have such luxury with Funland, unfortunately, since it's a year-round operation. So we're going to do what we can with the space we've got. So we kind of have this all fenced in. We're going to do the same thing right there with the exit path. Let me remove that sign and then get a couple of fences placed in there. And then just to kind of keep the, I don't know if I would say realism, but just kind of the continuity of having the exit path still be back there. I don't plan on reusing the exit path or entrance for Ring of Fire, but you never know. Just in case I do, we're going to go ahead and get that all covered up. Now, since it is January of 2003, the ride has just been sitting here, basically abandoned for the last 3 months. The train's still in place as if it just took its final riders. Speaking of riders, through its career from 1982 to 2002, Ring of Fire has seen 3,560,144 riders. That is very impressive for a single train ride. And then if you don't know, just for realism, just to kind of make the boarding times realistic, that's the wrong thing, there we go. I did space out the dispatches, so I did 34 seconds. The Schwarzkopf Shuttle Loops tended to operate with just the single ratcheting lap bars per seat, so each row would have 2 lap bars, and then they would not have seat belts. So I mean, you could, if you put enough attendants up on the platform, you could really send trains on these rides. But of course, I really don't know what the reset time for a launch is on a Schwarzkopf Shuttle Loop because I've actually never ridden one yet. Hopefully at some point I do get the opportunity, but seeing as there's, I believe, only one in the US, and even that one's in pieces right now as Knott's tries to put it back together. I think Gene Staples did buy the one from Mexico, though, so I don't know if that's ever going to go back together or not. At this point, I'd wager not, but nonetheless. So I think what we're going to do here, and what I would do, and what Fun Corporation would probably do, you can kind of look at Rip Ride Rocket at Universal Studios Florida in the Orlando Resort. What they did was they started demolishing it during Halloween Horror Nights, which ran until 2 a.m., and the park reopened at 9 a.m. So they had 7 hours to basically, while the park's clear, start ripping pieces out. And a big problem with Rip Ride Rocket for Universal too is a lot of the haunted houses there during Horror Nights, you had to cross the sound stages underneath the bottom of the first drop of Rip Ride Rocket. So I know that was a challenge. In fact, they ended up setting the lift hill on fire one of the days I was down there in October. But we're going to go ahead and get started here by removing the vertical loop. So I saw some people, ask if I was going to leave that as scenery. I think I might do that eventually, but unfortunately for Ring of Fire, that will not be the case. So we've got that taken out. Let's go ahead and rip out the entrance and exit as well. And then we will begin removing the launch track. Actually, start with the station. So we'll get the station and brakes out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and get tearing out the launch tunnel. And if you see there, when I moved the land, it kind of got rid of a little bit of the station there. But you know what? Maybe that's just a little bit of a battle scar from the deconstruction. Launch track is up next. I think for now, as far as guests are aware, I mean, the turbine room, I guess that's the term I'm going to use, turbine room, is going to stay. We're going to leave the supports for the loop above the path to Minetown there. But all the track will be gone here shortly. And this would be a tough piece. You'd almost have to take apart the forward spike piece by piece with a crane just because of its proximity to a car ride and then the railway as well. But we'll get rid of that. And then the rear spike right here. I think what we'll do before we get rid of the rear spike is actually start taking down some of the catwalk. For the exit. So you could potentially topple this one forward onto itself, but again, with a building right there, with that food stand being right there, that would not be an easy feat to accomplish. Oh, a little bit of battle scar there as I'm removing scenery. Unfortunately, I placed it on the wide. So we'll start getting rid of this, and we don't have a restricted area here anymore, so we can start ripping that out. And then we just have the rear spike left at this point. And then I think, oh, I left a piece of fence. There we go. And with that, just the rear spike remains. I think that might be a good thumbnail right there, actually. With the station kind of in pieces, and then just the rear spike standing there. I think that might be our thumbnail. So let's clear that out. There we go. And now we'll just use the final demolish. And just like that, Ring of Fire is no more. And then what we'll do is remove the entrance sign and the queue time board. And Ring of Fire is officially gone in the park. There's still going to be remnants of it. Like the station building is going to stay for a little while. I don't really have any reason to get rid of that. And I think we'll get rid of some of this fence. Oopsies. It's not really what I meant to do. So we'll get rid of that catwalk, and then I'm actually going to put that roof back because we are going to keep the winch room there for now. So there's going to be a little bit of catwalk still there. The railings are going to be gone, and then we'll leave that for now. And then even here, until we get the replacement ride placed, which won't be in the exact same spot, but keep an eye out for an RCTConstruction on that soon. We'll probably end up moving these two towards where that new ride is going to be, and then reuse those stands, and then demolish this building. But for now, we're going to leave the station intact, we're going to leave the exit path intact, and the queue line intact. I don't have any plans to reuse it yet, but you just never know what could happen in the future. But let's go ahead and start getting rid of these little bits of extra here. And then I am going to place those fences back, just like that. We'll get rid of all the plants up here. And I think even the queue line TVs, I mean, when these could be reused elsewhere until we get either reuse this queue or demolish the queue for future expansion. TV's out of there. I did not mean to get rid of that. So there's pieces of this I'm putting back that in real life, you know, if you accidentally deleted it, you wouldn't put it back. But I'm going to do it just for consistency. All right. And that is the end of that. We'll put that exit path piece back over there. And even what you could use this building for in the meantime is maybe storage for your haunts, because we are doing a Halloween event at Funland now. But we'll go ahead and get that piece of station put back in as well. Whoopsies, there we go. So the station is still there intact, as I said multiple times. And fun fact, this is actually going to be a double feature for RCT Deconstruction. So we're actually going to go ahead and move west over towards Orca Expedition. So Orca Expedition with a huge 2-year expansion plan in place for the aquatic section, or Aquatica section of Funland. This will be the second and third rides of this episode getting demolished. As far as Orca Expedition goes, Flume 1 closed back at the end of the 1990s. So 99, I want to say, was the last year we actually ran this. It might have even been 98. I know I have a post somewhere that says that. And then Flume 2 actually ran its last runs at the end of the 2001 season, so we did not run it in the 2002 season at all. So this ride is set, also standing but not operating for a couple years. Flume 1 for a long time, but Flume 2, 1 year of standing but not operating. Let's go ahead and get the entrance and exit removed here. And through the years of operation of Orca Expedition, they have seen, and this is combined between both flumes, but they've seen 3,043,000 rider for excuse me, 3,043,287 riders through the course of their lifetimes. Which is actually kind of interesting. We somehow got an odd number. Yeah, because we have 623 right there. But let's go ahead and get kicked off with the demolition of these rides. Now, with Orca Expedition, the queue for the flumes, actually, I do plan on reusing. It might not be the whole thing to this point, but I do plan on reusing a lot of the queue for this ride. Let's go ahead and start at Flume 1, which has been, abandoned here for quite a while now. And we'll start getting that ripped out over the pond. And then we'll follow that up with the other side here. And we'll rip that down heading into the mouth of the building here. Of the show building, I guess is what you would call it. Now, one thing that I did have a big issue with early on, especially with the log flumes or water rides, is I tend to make them way too long. Even Timberland really suffers from this because a log ride, really is just usually one lift hill. The log will slosh around in the trough a little bit, heading into a second lift hill, which then leads to the big drop and splashdown. But if you look at Timberland right here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lift hills. It's just way, way too long. And Orca Expedition was much the same. So we got rid of the station pieces and the lift hills and the drops going out of the station. But if you look through the scenery, I mean, it's just way, way too long. And this is something I was really, really guilty of early on. And I think Houston Pleasant's log flume, City Waterworks, does a really good job of kind of balancing, what a log ride should be compared to these ones. Because with the Funland log flumes, you'll find a lot of the guests are already just done riding them by the time they get back to the station. Because, I mean, it takes just so long. I think the Orca Expeditions are like 7 minutes from when they leave the station to when they finally get back, and that's disregarding any breakdowns that stops the boats, mid-course. But we'll get down to there, and we'll go ahead and rip out the drops. I thought the dueling drops were actually a really cool idea, and they did run pretty well to the point where they usually crossed when they went down the first drops. But I think from there what we'll do is we'll put a wall up. And we'll leave the show building standing for now, but will it be reused in the future? Maybe, maybe not. I haven't decided quite yet if it will be reused, but we're going to go ahead and seal that up. And then from there, we can just use the classic Demolish to get rid of the Orca Expeditions. And boom. Just like that, we're good. And we're going to go ahead and get rid of these extra, oopsies. There we go. Let's get rid of the path on top. And just like that, we can go ahead and rip these down. Because these little buildings I do not have any plans to reuse. Although I think for now we might just leave the footers in. And that might be something that's covered in a future RCT construction episode. Because this area will be reused in the future, no doubt about it. Let's go ahead and just... let's get the water fixed first, because we don't want any water left here on the flumes. Just like that. And I think we will do that. Just get it covered. And then what we can do is get rid of these little log transfers. And just like that, we are all set. And I think I'll leave these little divots in the ground just as, you know, remnants that there used to be a ride here, but there no longer is. So we have gotten rid of Orca Expedition and Ring of Fire. So that's what we're left with for now. And you never know what the future holds. Stay tuned for the next RCT Construction episode, where we find out what Funland will be receiving for the 2003 season. See you on the next one.